Hi there, and welcome to Eatery Almanac. Today I'll be teaching you how to make gooey grenades, a variation from one of the recipes in the Secrets of Mash Mess cookbook. It's basically just a calzone, but I'm going to put my own little twist on it. Show you coming up. For your gooey grenades, you will end up needing a mixing bowl from the last episode, a decrepit pan, the more decrepit, the more 1950s Korea, a can opener for your canned goods, a knife for cutting open plastics, aluminum foil, which you'll be needing to actually cover your gooey grenades, and if you want the original recipe from the Secrets of Mash cookbook, it is on page 40. Neat pictures throughout the book that actually show you the show. It's kind of neat. For your actual food, you're going to need ham. I'm putting it in. The original recipe calls for no meats, but frankly, I need meat in my food. Black olives, tomato sauce, some rolls. Any rolls will kind of do, but I'll show you how to do that later. I'm using rice wine vinegar. The original recipe I'm pretty sure calls for white, but that's what we have. Worcestershire sauce, nobody can say that. Oregano, onion powder, black pepper, cayenne pepper, garlic powder. That's just what I'm using for this. Really, the spice is up to your taste. The most important part of all these ingredients is the gooey aspect, the cheese. Just shredded cheese, whatever variety you want. Big bag though, gotta make sure you have lots of it, otherwise it's just a grenade and that's dangerous. Luckily, all these ingredients don't have a specific order. See this tomato sauce? Put it in. That's the secret. Your rice wine, vinegar, sorry, I'm just saying what I want to see. And this recipe calls for a lot of vinegar. I think that's mostly to deal with the fact that I think the original book calls for a paste, and that's kind of too bad, because we're not doing that today. Instead, we're using more Worcestershire. Worcestershire. This one. Worcestershire. We're using that one. You know what? Any other day I can say it. Then your cheese, because it makes for the thickest medium. Wow. Okay. Remember when I said a lot of cheese? You may have overshot it, but that's how much cheese you want in there, so don't worry about that. Start adding ham, whatever meat you want to throw in there. Thin steaks cut up really thin would probably work too. Figure if you want to cube some chicken breast, that wouldn't be too bad. And then the last thing that it actually calls for, the original recipe calls for a bunch of chilies and onions and stuff, but it also calls for black olives, which I actually like. And instead of actually cutting up black olives, I found it's more aesthetically pleasing to just mash them with your fingers. Of course, this requires that you wash your hands incessantly, because you're not supposed to be cooking with your hands. But I'm sorry, the best instrument you have as a chef is your friggin' hands. They're very versatile, and there's a lot of the little bastards. I understand now, if you really screw it up, you can get your hands back. Something about plastic and technology and all that. Go to the Institute, whatever. Let's see, what else have we got? Because I may have to run over and wash these hands real quick if I'm going to go ahead and put in my seasonings. It's got kind of a strong flavor. It's almost what you'd expect from an uncooked pizza because of the vinegar and the tomato sauce, or if you're doing it by the books, the paste. Give me a quick rinse. And we'll move on to our seasonings. You see that? Garlic powder. All the garlic powder. Cayenne pepper, just a little bit. You got to keep in mind this is a super aggressive seasoning. The black pepper. Black pepper is a little more mild and you can go a little bit more crazy with it. Part of the use of black pepper is it is aesthetically pleasing. It gives everything polka dots, and ever since 101 Dalmatians, we've all loved polka dots. But not actual dogs. Alright, onion powder. You gotta be careful with onion powder, like I'm not, because it is a fairly strong flavor. And finally, oregano, because anything with a red sauce needs oregano. And when you're ready, you're satisfied with the heaping mess you've made in your mixing bowl, you take your hands and you do this for a while. Of course, a civilized human being might just use a spoon, which, come to think of it, I'm going to need later anyway to put this in the shells of the grenades. But I don't know, this seems more efficient and satisfying. You hear that? Yeah. From there, you have your mix, and that's what you're going to be putting in the husks of your grenades. And once you've got everything in your bowl to where you like it, I admit off camera I added some more black olives, a little more seasoning, and did a little bit more stirring. What I neglected to mention is that you need a big spoon for serving this into your grenades. You'll see why in a second. Now your grenades are actually these rolls. Today we're using, I believe, French dinner rolls. Any kind of roll will do. I know have I used potato rolls? I ought to, because I've discovered recently I like potato rolls. And that's actually really simple. So what I did, I used a santoku, which has that serrated edge that you'll see in a bread knife, but isn't a bread knife. From there, you take your thumbs and you just push in. Make sure you don't push through the sides, and it's super easy. You've created a little pocket. From there, and I've gone through a little bit. I'll show you again in a sec. You can see there's another one here. You just take this, fill it with goop as completely as you want. Once you've got a slight overflow, you can take your bite-off cap, put it back on top, set that aside. We're going to wrap that in just a second. Again, you've cut off your edge with your santoku, bread knife, pocket knife, thumb, whatever's sharpest, and we'll leave the bread intact because, again, you're going to have to use your thumbs, and this is not what they tell you to do, by the way, in the book. They tell you, well, use a spoon and hollow it out. No, just push your thumbs in. It gives you a thicker bread wall, and it gives you more control over the pocket that you're creating. At least that's my entirely amateur opinion. From there, you pour in goop, and you can press very gently with the spoon to make sure you're getting in more. Just like that. Place your top, set it aside, make sure it's not going to be too much of a problem, and I'll do one more just to show you. Take your edge, find probably the most narrow edge, take that very gently, cut it off, because again, bread is very fragile. Take your thumbs, push in the insides. From there, you can fill in your innards. Ball bearings, shrapnel, whatever you can find. I hear there's been success with chess pieces. And you know, it's kind of ironic in a war to kill someone with a chess piece. So if you're some sort of sociopath or like a killer, that'll work fine. That's actual grenades though. For the gooey grenades, we're gonna stick with ham and cheese and tomato paste. Yeah, and I'll show you how to wrap those in a second once I am done filling in the rest of these. Now the next part actually takes a little while, so we may as well preheat while we're waiting, right? This recipe calls for 350, and again, depending on your oven and depending how much you put in your gooey grenades, it could be more, it could be less. We're gonna try this. For reference, we have our potato rolls and our French steak rolls, that's these back here, that I filled top-wise, picked up from our local King Supers. Those are all nice and filled, you can tell by the fact that they're oozing. You want to get that nice and full. We actually didn't end up using all of ours, and we could put it on a pizza, we could make more gooey grenades later. There's all kinds of stuff you could do with a mix like that. Now, our next step is perhaps the most difficult to do cost efficiently and correctly. We get to wrap each of these little buggers with aluminum foil. There's nothing special about the aluminum foil, there's nothing you need to know about it. Just make sure you take your grenade and cover it all the way with aluminum foil. And that will sit on the pan. That's it. There's nothing special about it. Show you again, I'll use one of the French steak rolls. Figure that's gonna take a little bit more. And again, if you're smart, you'll measure that on it. But today, we're not doing anything by the book, with the exception of the preheat that I already showed you. Alrighty then. Once that is ready, you have all of them lined up on your pan. Come to think of it, I might just grab another pan. Looking a little overpopulated there. Well, that's why we got more than one rack in the oven, right? Once that's done preheating, we'll throw those in. Our preheat's done. Everything's wrapped up. We've got them in enough space to cook, and I think it's about time we throw these in. Keep in mind that there's nothing really stopping you from pulling these out as soon as you put them in. It's just meat and cheese, and frankly the meat I pulled was pre-cooked, so there's nothing actually to worry about while you're cooking. Recipe calls for 35 minutes. We'll probably call that good regardless. Let's see then. With any luck, we're done cooking. Let's take our pans out, take a look at our brand new tasty Gooey grenades. Let's see. And if we pop one open using the knife and fork from before, remember this is metal and it's just been 350 degrees for half an hour. Yeah, see, that looks pretty gooey in there. Got a nice steam cloud as soon as you pop it open. That should be tasty. Remember, the only thing we're really cooking off is the fact that I, did everything with my hands and get everything nice and warm inside. So I'd say these are ready to eat. If we pop this open, let's just take the fork, go to bird forkful, watch the steam come off. Oh, this is gonna hurt. Yep, painful but delicious. How I like all my food. I'd say this was a success. If you have any variations on the Gooey grenade, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. Otherwise, try it out and enjoy for yourself. I'm hungry, I'm gonna tear into this. Ah! Right. Hey, thanks again for watching Eatery Almanac. Hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, there's plenty others like it before this one, and plenty more to come, I'm sure. If you go over to ColoradoNerdEmporium.com, you can check out our content creator page where we're trying to get a bunch of people from the local area out there onto the web, because that's the hardest part, is promotion. This recipe came from the Secrets of the Mashed Mess, the Lost Recipes of Private Igor book. It's a fun book. It's got a ton of recipes in it. It's got a lot of shots from the show. It's written from Private Igor's perspective, and it's got a bunch of letters home and stuff. And that was just cool. I think I got this as a Christmas present, so I can't tell you the price, but it's definitely worth picking up and reading. Thanks again for hanging out with us. I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and see you again soon. A brave man once requested me to answer questions that are key. Is it to be or not to be? And I replied, oh, why ask me? Suicide is painless. Suicide brings on any changes, and I can take or leave it if I please. Is that the last one?